And there is James Comey being sworn in this week as the new director of the FBI. He and other top law enforcement officials are tracking a steady stream of terror threats as we approach the anniversary of 9/11. Our team of experts are here to analyze the latest. But first, some background from ABC's Pierre Thomas.
An al-Qaeda plot to blow up a commercial passenger plane. Lone wolf terrorists self-radicalized on the internet, striking without warning. And bulletins warning of a cyber attack should the U.S. strike Syria. It was chilling. The outgoing FBI director and the Homeland Security Secretary both pointed to these kinds of threats as urgent in their final days in office.
What keeps you up at night?
A terrorist attack like we saw in the Boston Marathon, threats to infrastructure via cyber and cyber networks, and also threats to aviation, which remains a target.
What in the final days worries you most?
The possibility of a plane being taken down and the possibility of a weapon of mass destruction in the hands of a terrorist or a terrorist group, chemical, biological, and cyber. The ability to impact substantially the financial markets or the energy sector.
And those are viable threats right now?
Yes.
In recent days, with the possibility of a strike on Syria, the threat of cyber warfare has come to the forefront. The Syrian Electronic Army, a group of hackers that supports the Assad regime, claimed credit for attacking the New York Times website and another site connected to the U.S. Marines. And concerns about Syria are now converging with this week's upcoming anniversary of 9/11. The attack on Benghazi a year ago came on that very day.
We always take the anniversary very seriously, even if we don't have something that's specific or credible.
So many threats, so much to guard against. Napolitano had this advice for her successor.
Buy the large bottle of Advil.
And Pierre joins us now, along with ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross and Ali Soufan, former FBI special agent who investigated terrorism cases like the bombing of the USS Cole and the 9/11 attacks. The New Yorker once wrote that no one came closer to preventing those attacks than you. Thank you for joining us. And Pierre, let me begin with you. We just heard Secretary Napolitano say there no specific credible threat right now about an attack related to 9/11, but these officials seem as worried as they've ever been.
It's a convergence with Syria, the 9/11 anniversary, and officials are very concerned about what they don't know. So it's a very nervous moment. They're checking all the intelligence as we lead up to 9/11. And as you recall, last year, they had no specific credible threat, and then Benghazi.
We saw Benghazi, and right now, Brian Ross, we have seen some reports of Hezbollah perhaps planning retaliation against U.S. interests in Iraq, U.S. interests in Lebanon, the embassy evacuated this weekend. So we have those threats combined with these threats of a cyber attack.
Well, Hezbollah is extremely capable. Some people tell us they make al-Qaeda look like the junior varsity. But in 25 years, there's no record of them going after U.S. interests. And people we talk to say that doesn't seem likely.
So you don't buy these new reports?
I think more likely an attack on Israel as opposed to a U.S. interest, because that would be a different kind of attack. But there are concerns that perhaps not just U.S. embassies, but hotels associated with American names, airlines that appear to be American, could be targets. But for the most part, Hezbollah has no track record of that. As to the cyber attacks, George, there's this group called the Syrian Electronic Army, which appear to be about 10 college-age kids in Syria who are backed by the...
We're pretty sure they're in Syria, though.
That's what we're told by U.S. authorities. But they're not that sophisticated. What they've done has been disruptive. It's denied us Maureen Dowd's column, lots of things, but it has not really been that sophisticated according to real cyber experts.
So more a nuisance than anything else,
Absolutely.
At least right now. And Ali Soufan, you've just come out with a new report called Countering Violent Extremism, and you write that, quote, the Achilles heel of American policy is failure to counter the narratives that inspire individuals to become terrorists, like those Boston Marathon bombers.
And like many affiliates of al-Qaeda, since 9/11, 12 years after 9/11, if you look at al-Qaeda and its affiliates today, it's not only in Afghanistan and Pakistan, it is also in the Sahel region, in West Africa, in south of Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq. So the narrative is spreading, and the narrative is spreading all over the Muslim world, from West Africa to Southeast Asia. And what we need to include in our strategy, in addition to the military, in addition to the law enforcement, in addition to the intelligence, we need to include countering the narrative of extremism. Because if groups like al-Qaeda and its affiliates continue to recruit, continue to retain members, continue to find new blood, this war is going to go for generations.
And you think that it should be tailored to the local realities in each situation. But how do you do that? What do we need to do?
Well, we need to actually deal with the problem in its own region. Like, for example, the economy is huge in Africa. resources, the economic disparities between different regions. Like in Nigeria, for example, if you look at Boko Haram operates mainly in northern Nigeria, and there's a lot of historical and economic problems over there. If you look at the situation in Syria, it's mostly sectarian. Or in Iraq, it's mostly sectarian. In Yemen, it has its roots in the problem between north of Yemen and south of Yemen. So these regional issues, like we see today in Syria, for example, we cannot allow these regional issues just to happen and say it's not going to come and hunt us down the road.
So, Pierre, are officials absorbing these lessons that we're hearing about right here?
They absolutely are. But the wild card, George, is the Internet. You have people being radicalized on the Internet. If you look at Boston, the FBI director told me in that interview that he believed that the people were radicalized on the Internet, not from overseas. So they're having to worry about that in addition to what is happening overseas, people sitting at their computer at home, getting radicalized by sermons, and then actually having the wherewithal to get the training to do an attack on the Internet.
And, Brian, how would you rate the level of concern to previous 9/11 anniversaries?
Well, at this point, according to the FBI, as of about last week, there were about 100 people in this country under active surveillance by the FBI, the bulk of them U.S. citizens, who they consider possible threats. Not enough information to go and arrest them, but worthy of being watched almost on a round-the-clock basis.
Okay, Brian, Ross, Ali Soufan, Pierre Thomas, thank you all very much. Let's hope we get through this anniversary.